Hi everyone, welcome to the webinar and workshop series conducted by TCS in lieu of the upcoming OCS exams happening in August 2025. My name is Nick and I'm the lead tutor and evaluator for OCS at TCS. So let's look at the session plan. First things first, I'm going to share some general feedback with you because, most of you who had invested on our paid packages had started attempting mock exams. So I went through your answer scripts, and by doing so, I've encountered certain problems or identified certain issues in your answering technique. So I'm going to share some general feedback with you. And also I will be sharing a 3-week study plan with you because if you're yet to start preparations, you still have enough time to complete your mock attempts as well as conduct your revision. So with that in mind, I will be sharing a 3-week study plan. And also lastly, I will be taking you through one of the P1 related questions highlighted within OCS mock 3, which we have developed. And then I will be opening up for a Q&A session at the very end of tonight's session. All right, so before we move on, let me quickly remind you of the workshops which we have scheduled for you. So similar to what we are going to cover in today's workshop, I will be conducting workshops focused on your F1 and E1 syllabi as well. And in each of these workshops, I will be taking you through a mock exam and its answer, thereby explaining how to tackle questions tied to your F1 and E1 syllabi. And similar to tonight's session, I will be conducting a Q&A. And in the final workshop, which happens 2 or 3 days before your examination, I will be sharing last-minute tips with you to make sure that you walk into the exam with a high level of positivity. So just like what we have done in the previous weeks, get in touch with us on a weekly basis via these free workshops, which is the best way to get all your questions answered. And at the same time, this is the best way to keep tabs about your performance at the end of each week. All right, so first things first, as I mentioned, I'm going to share some feedback with you. So when going through your answers, what I understood is the fact that there's a tendency for you to deflect from the requirement or deflect from the task. So I explained in the third webinar the fact that before developing answer plans, you are supposed to spend some time to really understand the requirement clearly. It's crucial that you understand the exact requirement. If not, you will end up developing answers which are not really aligned with the requirement. And if that is the case, you won't get any marks. So as I mentioned in the third webinar, with the intention of gaining a clear understanding of each requirement, you are supposed to reiterate each requirement in your own words in a simpler manner. So if you look at this mock exam, the first, these requirements are quite simple. Then let's look at something like the last requirement of section 2. Explain the implications Halfpenny needs to consider in relation to legal status and taxation when setting up distribution operations within Zealand, either as a branch or subsidiary. So there's a lot of information within this requirement. So before you develop the answer plan or before you structure your answer, you are supposed to simplify this requirement with 2 objectives in mind. Objective number 1 is to gain a clear understanding of the requirement. That's the main objective of simplifying the requirement. And objective number 2 is to have the capability to check the accuracy of your answer plan, because whilst developing your answer plan, you are supposed to refer back to the requirement and see whether you are developing an answer which is totally aligned with each task or each requirement. And you can easily do this when you have a direct requirement at your disposal. So how can you simplify this? I'm going to, direct your attention towards the answer plan. So I've simplified this long requirement as setting up a branch or subsidiary, legal and tax implications. So the requirement is explain the implications Halfpenny needs to consider in relation to the legal status and taxation when setting up a distribution operation within Zealand, either as a branch or subsidiary. So I've simplified it as setting up a branch or subsidiary, legal and tax implications. So in order to overcome this first issue, Simplify your requirement in your own words before you develop the answer plan. And also, when going through your answers, I figured out that in certain instances, since you are lacking theoretical knowledge, you have provided half-hearted answers, especially towards when going through the answers concerning mock number 3, especially towards the last section. Because if you look at the last section of this paper, it is primarily focused on a what if analysis and sensitivity analysis. That's the first part. And in the second part, feedback and feed forward control systems. And in the last part, you are supposed to suggest non-financial performance measures. So this is a quite easy section if you really think about it. But the problem is, when going through your answers, I figured out that you have provided half-hearted answers, which indicates the fact that probably you were struggling with understanding what a what if analysis and a sensitivity analysis is. So these are two different forecasting models which can be utilized for decision making. But if you don't know what these decision making tools are or forecasting tools are, then you'd struggle when developing an answer. And similarly, feedback and feed forward control systems are quite easy. The answers are quite straightforward. However, if you are clueless about what a feed forward and feedback system is and what the differences are, then you can't develop answers. And in this last subtask concerning KPIs, this is where your practical application or your decision making skills are tested. So if you are actually not aware of how to suggest KPIs to keep tabs about an expansion initiative, then again you'd struggle with this type of a question. And I saw that in section number 3, most of you had struggled with the first subtask, because this is a tough one. You are supposed to explain what these figures mean. There's an indication of expected values, standard deviations, considering 3 different campaigns and coefficient of variation. So if you don't know what these numbers mean, or what the standard deviation, coefficient of variation, as well as expected values are all about, then you won't get any marks for this type of a question. So as I mentioned throughout the webinar series, I mentioned the fact that your theoretical knowledge will be heavily tested in your examination. So if you are clueless of these forecasting techniques, then you will struggle to develop an answer. So this happens due to a lack of theory knowledge. So it's essential that you learn theoretical elements which cover all syllabus areas. That is why we have developed 6 mock exams, and across these 6 mock exams, we have covered 72 subtasks in total. And when you're thorough with these 72 subtasks, then you will understand how each syllabus area can be tested at the exam. When you know how each syllabus area is tested, when you know how to structure your answers, the number of points and what type of points you need to include when developing your answers, then you will get extremely good marks at your real examination. So if you look at this document, you can see how vast your syllabus is. You have to be conversant with various different elements concerning variance analysis, budgeting and controls, costing and pricing, forecasting techniques, risk and uncertainty, short-term decision making, and KPIs or performance measurement, as well as things tied to your F1 syllabus concerning various different IASs and IFRSs, along with taxation and working capital management is tested. So as you can see, this is a vast syllabus. So if you just attempt 2 or 3 mock exams, you do not stand a chance to cover the entire syllabus. Instead, what's prudent is to attempt all 6 mock exams, attempt all 72 subtasks. If so, you will not be testing your luck at your real examination. And if you don't know theory, then you can't work on your application skills as well. So I understood that even when you have you have a good understanding of theoretical elements, you have struggled a bit with application and questions tied to the KPIs. You have struggled a lot. Most of you have struggled a lot, which again indicates the fact that you are struggling with application. But don't worry, your application issues can be fixed by going through the answer plans and redeveloping answer plans. So I explained how to develop answer plans and what redeveloping answer plans is all about in the third webinar, answering technique. So when you go through these answer plans, you will gain a clear understanding of how to structure each answer, the type of points you need to include considering each syllabus area. And after learning these things, you are supposed to test your knowledge by redeveloping answer plans. Once you have redeveloped answer plans, compare your fresh answer plans to TCSs to figure out what your shortcomings are. Then you will understand whether you are capable of replicating TCS's answer plans or whether you are missing out on certain points, whether you are, including unnecessary points and whatnot. So, keep redeveloping answer plans over and over, focused on one single mock exam until you are confident about the fact that you are capable of developing answer plans which are akin to TCSs. So if you stick to this process, you are taking steps to learn theory and improve your application skills. All right. And another issue is tied to mentioning or determining the number of points which you need to include under each and every subtask. I explained how to do this in the third webinar. So as you know, under each subtask, there's a weightage which appears. For instance, in section number 3, for subtask A, the weightage is 50%. For subtask B, the weightage is 30%. And for subtask C, the weightage is 20%. So by looking at these percentages, you can easily determine how many marks are dedicated for each and every subtask. As you know, each section carries a total mark allocation of 37.5 marks. So 50% means 50% of 37.5 marks, 30% of 37.5 marks, and 20% of 37.5 marks. So you can see how marks are divided into section in section number 3. So 50% of 37.5 marks come up to 19 marks in total. 30% of 37.5 marks come up to 11 marks in total, and 20% of 37.5 marks come up to 7.5 marks in total. So if you have to score 19 marks, you need to come up with a certain amount of points or include a certain number of points within your answer. So what you need to do is, in order to determine the number of points which you should include, divide 19 by 3, which comes up to something like 6. Then again divide 19 by 2, which comes up to something like 9 or 10. We can say 9. So if you come up with 6 to 9 points for subtask A, then you will get full 19 marks. So if you have to score 19 marks, considering the fact that each valid point carries 2 or 3 marks, divide 19 by 3 and again divide 19 by 2, then you know for a fact that you need to come up with you need to include 6 to 9 points for subtask A in order to score 19 marks. So that's how you are supposed to determine how many points you should include based on the weightages provided. So practice this technique when attempting each of your mock exams under exam conditions. You will struggle a bit when it comes to determining the number of points at this juncture, but with practice, you will gain the capability to exactly understand how many points you should include in each subtask. And when you adhere to this methodology, you are taking steps to ensure that your answers are not too long or too short. So practice this technique, and specifically towards section number 4 of each of the mocks which we have practiced so far, I identified the fact that you are struggling. It appears that you were struggling to expand the answer plan. I mentioned the fact that after you have developed the answer plan, your next job is to expand the answer plan in paragraph form. So let's assume in a certain subtask you intended to, or you decided to include 7 valid points. Then in your final answer, there should be 7 different paragraphs. So if you're struggling with this, don't worry. Keep practicing this technique. And on top of that, on top of the answer plans, you have access to the suggested answers as well. So go through these suggested answers to figure out how you should expand your answer plan in paragraph form. and it appears that you ran out of time, especially towards the last subtask of each section, which is quite all right, because you are still getting your bearings with the time management technique which we taught you 2 weeks back. So keep practicing the answering and time management technique which I taught you. Then you will get your grips with this answering and time management technique, and by the time you are attempting mock number 5 and 6, you will understand that you have the capability of developing answer plans within just 20 minutes, when you are taking something like 30 to 35 minutes to develop answer plans right now. Okay, so keep practicing the answering and time management techniques which I taught, and on top of that, bridge your knowledge gaps and fix your application issues when conducting revision. Okay, so that's a general feedback which I wanted to share with you. Having said that, let's move on to the 3-week study plan. So if you are yet to start preparations, don't worry, you still have enough time to attempt all 6 mock exams and conduct revision focused on the same 6 mock exams. So I've divided this plan into 4 different weeks, and the 4th week and the final week is the exam week. So keeping it aside, let's look at what you need to achieve in the upcoming week and upcoming 3 weeks rather. So in week number 1, which is the upcoming week, which starts from tomorrow, you need to watch the pre-scene analysis videos. There are 4 videos in total. Once you have watched these videos, you will gain an in-depth understanding of what appears within your pre-scene document. So rather than trying to waste time to understand pre-scene info by your own, on your own, simply watch the 3 pre-scene analysis videos which we have developed. And if you missed out on the 3rd webinar answering technique, please go watch the recorded version of the 3rd webinar in order to learn answering and time management techniques. Once you have learned these techniques, then implement these techniques by attempting mock exam 1 via our exam platform. As you know, we have developed an exam platform which is the exact replica of the Pearson VUE system. So go attempt mock exam 1, thereby practicing your answering and time management techniques under real exam conditions. Then once you're done with mock exam 1, go through the answer plan of mock exam 1. Once you have gone through it, redevelop the answer plan. This is when you are testing whether you are capable of replicating TCS's answer plans. Okay, so that's the type of revision you have to be involved with. Then within the same week, attempt mock number 2 via the exam platform. After the mock attempt, go through the answer plan. After going through the answer plan, redevelop the answer plan focused on mock exam 2. So within week number 1, you should complete 2 mock exams. And in week number 2, similarly, you should complete 2 mock exams once more. So focus your attention towards attempting mock number 3 and redeveloping answer plans. And similarly, attempt mock number 4 and redevelop answer plans in the 2nd week. And in the 3rd week, focus your attention towards attempting mocks 5 and 6 and conducting revision by redeveloping answer plans focused on mocks 5 and 6. And in the exam week, in the final days, you are not supposed to attempt any mock exams. Instead, simply refer to the answer plans which we have shared with you concerning mocks 1 to 6 and reread the annotated pre-scene one last time and stop work a day or 2 before your examination. So ideally, if your exam is happening on Wednesday, you have to stop all your work by Sunday night and take 2 days off. Because why am I asking you to take 2 days off? Because then it will help you to calm yourself, and this relaxation before the exam will be extremely beneficial for you. Because if you put in the hard yards before the examination, then you need not worry about you passing the examination, because we guarantee your pass if you attempt all 6 mock exams, and if you conduct revision focused on the same 6 mock exams, you need not worry about passing this examination. So when all the other students are scrambling for time, when they are under undue levels of stress a week or 2 before the examination, you are sticking to a smart approach, which is to put in the hard yards in the upcoming 3 weeks. And if you are if you are conversant with all 6 mocks, and if you had conducted revision, then you need not worry about anything on the exam week. Simply go through the answer plans and the annotated pre-scene. You need not do anything else. Take a break a day or two before your examination, so that you have the capability to walk into the exam with a high level of positivity. And this relaxation will ensure an open mind at your exam. And it's best to be open-minded when attempting your real examination. So I hope you will stick to this 3-week study plan. If you're yet to start your preparations, I will share this study plan with you after this session via the WhatsApp group. Okay, so before we move on to your P1 mock discussion, let me quickly tell you what we offer at TCS. So I'm on the OCS page. If you're yet to create a free user account, click on this button and create a free account. And via this free account, you'd gain access to the free resources on offer. So click on My Courses. In front of OCS Free, you'd see an Access Content button. Click on it, and then you'd gain access to the recorded versions of the weekly webinars and workshops we conduct via the videos tab. And under study material, you'd gain access to the pre-scene mind map, the syllabus coverage document, and the answer plan of mock exam 1. Under the mocks tab, you'd gain access to the questions and the answers of the first mock exam which we have developed. And under the exams tab, you will gain access to our exam platform on which you can attempt the first mock exam in its entirety under exam conditions, which is the best way to practice your answering, time management, and stress management techniques. So I've taught you answering and time management in the 3rd webinar. I've taught you stress management techniques in last week's webinar, which was the 4th webinar. So if you missed out on these things, please go watch the recorded versions before you attempt mock exam 1. So these are the free resources on offer. And if you are interested in investing on our paid content, click on this button and check our sample study resources before you invest. And if you're yet to join the OCS WhatsApp discussion forum, click on this button and join it. Via this group, we will keep you informed of the weekly commencement dates and times of the weekly webinars and workshops. Also, we will share hordes of free resources with you. And if you have any questions, you can get them addressed instantaneously via this WhatsApp group. And talking about what we offer 2 packages, the Essential Course and the Value Course. The Essential Course is intended for those who have completed their OTQ exams. So since you have already learned your theories, your job when conducting preparations is simply to improve your application skills. So under the Essential Course, you will gain access to the recordings of all weekly webinars and workshops, 3 mock exams with suggested answers. So I was talking about 6 mock exams. But if you're coming through the general route, or if you had completed your OTQs, just having access to 3 mocks will help, because it's simply a matter of improving your application skills. So at this stage, your application skills are not tested heavily, since you have already learned your theory via the OTQs. Simply put in some effort to improve your application skills, and you will easily pass this examination, given the fact that the OCS exam is a highly technical one. So you'd gain access to 3 mock exams with suggested answers. You will also gain access to pre-scene analysis videos. Watch these videos to gain an in-depth understanding of your pre-scene. You will also gain access to the annotated pre-scene, the industry analysis, and financial analysis slides. Let me quickly show you what the annotated pre-scene looks like. So we have come up with annotations with the intention of summarizing the entire pre-scene. And on top of that, we have highlighted probable exam scenarios, which can be tested as part of these annotations, along with syllabus areas, which can be tested as well. And when developing our mock exams, we have made sure to cover all these elements within the 6 mock exams. So that's the annotated pre-scene. And looking at the industry analysis slides, this is divided into 4 main parts. In the first part, we have defined your industry. In the second and third parts, we have explained about the competitive landscape and industry trends. And based on these industry trends, scenarios will be thrown at you at your real examination. And at the very end, considering 2 real-life companies, we have explained how real-life companies operate within your chosen industry. And looking at the financial analysis slides, we have evaluated each financial statement in depth, yet keeping sure to make things simple so that you can gain a good understanding of what appears within each financial statement. So we have evaluated the SOPL, the SOFP, as well as the statement of cash flows. And lastly, we have conducted a ratio analysis, again, explaining each ratio in depth, but keeping things simple so that you can easily gain an understanding about the financial standing of your chosen company. So these are the resources on offer under the essential course. Additionally, you would gain access to the top 10 likely issue slides, which indicate the most probable syllabus areas which can be tested at your examination. You will gain access to a case study familiarization kit. Once you have read through this kit, you will gain a good understanding of the technicalities behind your OCS exam. Also, you would gain access to a tutor managed live chat. So the essential course is priced at £199. And talking about the value course, this is designed for those who are coming through the exemption route and those who had failed the OCS exam previously. So both these sets of students have the same problem. There are gaps in theory knowledge and issues with application. So we have developed some additional resources under the value course with the intention of teaching you theory and making sure that you significantly improve your application skills. So the value under the value course, you'd gain access to 6 mock exams with suggested answers. I said that we have covered 72 subtasks across these 6 mocks to make sure that you don't miss out on any syllabus area when conducting preparations. And this will be extremely crucial for you on the day of the exam because you're not testing your luck. Instead, when conducting preparations, you have taken steps to cover the entire syllabus. And on top of that, you'd gain access to OTQ revision cards. So after attempting each mock exam, if you feel that you were struggling with a certain syllabus area, don't waste time by trying to go through bulky study texts or your old study notes. Simply refer to our OTQ revision cards. In a jiffy, you are in a position to brush up your theoretical knowledge. You will gain access to the online mock exam platform via which you can attempt all 6 mock exams under exam conditions. And as I mentioned earlier, this is the best way to fine-tune your answering, time management, and stress management techniques. Along with it, you will gain access to the answer plans of all 6 mock exams. And these answer plans are intended to teach you theory and explain application. And on top of that, when conducting revision, your life becomes easy because you are supposed to redevelop answer plans. Once you have redeveloped answer plans, compare your answer plans to TCSs to further refine your answering technique. So if you invest on the premium course, it is going to cost you £499, which can be paid in two installments of £249 each, or you can opt to pay in full. If so, you will end up saving £100 and the price is just £399. So you can invest on your preferred course by clicking on either of these buttons. And there are some of you who are sticking to our original 8-week study plan. So let's try to figure out what you need to achieve within this week. So we are in week number 5 according to our 8-week study plan. So this week is dedicated towards mock number 4. So similar to what you have completed in the last 2 weeks, attempt mock number 4 via the exam platform, thereby practicing your answering, time management, and stress management techniques. Once you have practiced these things, practice mock exam 4 under exam conditions, then go through the answer plan of mock exam 4 to learn theory and understand how to structure your answers and to learn application skills. Once you have learned these things, your preparations should not stop there. You have to test for yourself whether you are capable of developing answer plans which are akin to TCSs. That's why you need to redevelop answer plans. So as I mentioned throughout the webinar series, you cannot pass this exam simply by attempting all 6 mocks. Instead, you have to spend some time to conduct revision as well. So that's why it's crucial for you to redevelop answer plans, because when you are redeveloping answer plans, you are effectively taking steps to fix all your problems with your answering technique. So that's what you are supposed to achieve within week number 5. And if you're yet to start preparations, don't worry. I explained a 3-week study plan with you. And as I mentioned earlier, I will be sharing this 3-week study plan. And according to the study plan, within this week, you are supposed to finish off mocks 1 and 2. Okay, so that's what we offer. And having said that, let's move on to the discussion of the mock exam. Before we do so, I'm going to take you through your P1 syllabus, thereby explaining what you need to cover when conducting your preparations based on our mock exams. So your knowledge pertaining to variance analysis is tested at this examination. So you have to be conversant with the sales variances, sales mix and quantity variances, as well as material and labor variances, and overhead variances concerning variable and fixed overheads. And also you need to be conversant about what planning and operational variances are, the differences between planning and operational variances. So with regards to variance analysis, you have to memorize the formulas or the formulae concerning each of these variances, because in certain questions the examiner will ask you to mention the formula of each variance, or the examiner will ask you to explain how to calculate each variance. So it's essential that you memorize the formulae concerning each of these variances. And on top of that, although you have to be conversant about the formulae, you are not expected to do any calculations at this stage. So all the variances, the facts and figures will be shared with you. Your job is to explain each of these variances and explain any interrelationships between variances. So we have covered all these elements within the 6 mocks we have developed. So go through these mock exams, conduct your revision, then you will understand how to tackle each type of variance. And also, your knowledge pertaining to budgeting and controls will be tested heavily at this examination. So you have to be conversant about what the principal budgeting factor is, and the differences between the imposed and participative budgeting styles. You need to know what budget stress testing is all about, the pros and cons of budget stress testing. Then you need to be conversant with various different budgeting methods, such as rolling budgets, flexible budgets, activity-based budgeting, zero-based budgeting, and beyond budgeting. And concerning each type of budget, you need to understand how to implement each type of budget, and the benefits of implementing as well as the drawbacks of implementing each type of budget. And you have to be conversant with what feed forward and feedback controls are. Then you have to know what responsibility accounting is, and the differences between what if and sensitivity analysis. So that's tied to budgeting and controls. And looking at costing and pricing, you have to be conversant with various costing methodologies highlighted within your P1 syllabus tied to marginal and absorption costing. You have to be conversant with activity-based costing. You should know how to implement activity-based costing, because you have to stick to a stepped process when implementing an ABC system or activity-based costing system. So you need to have a good understanding of how to implement ABC within Halfpenny, as well as the pros and cons of implementing ABC within Halfpenny. So there's a standard cost card which is shared with you via the pre-seen document. And by looking at the numbers which appear within the standard cost card, you can easily understand whether Halfpenny can implement ABC in a successful manner or not. I've covered all these things in the annotated pre-seen and the pre-seen analysis videos. And on top of that, I've covered these elements within the mock exams as well. And also, you have to be conversant with relevant costing. And if you are developing an application, a web application, the costs tied to development of web app, and you need to know what cost plus pricing, the various different cost plus pricing methods, marginal cost plus, fixed cost plus, and total cost plus pricing methods. You have to be conversant with transfer pricing and the CGMA cost transformation model, which falls under your E1 syllabus as well, because if we are trying to pursue sustainability, then we have to adopt the CGMA cost transformation model, because when we are trying to become sustainable, it will expose us to additional costs. So we should achieve a balance between sustainability and additional investments. So this balance can be achieved by utilizing the CGMA cost transformation model. So you have to be aware of this transformation model, and also you have to be conversant with digital costing as well. And Looking at the forecasting techniques at this stage, definitely forecasting techniques will be tested. So you need to know how big data can be utilized for forecasting, how to conduct a time series analysis. So time series related information will be shared with you. Your job is to explain the graphs and the tables provided. You need to have the capability to explain a linear regression equation, and seasonal variation related information will be shared with you. You should have the capability of explaining these numbers and also highlight the limitations of forecasting techniques, which falls under your E1 syllabus as well. And tied to risk and uncertainty, you have to have a good understanding of various different risk attitudes, maximax, minimax, and maximin. And based on each of these risk attitudes, the type of decisions each decision maker will take, you should have a good understanding about it. And also your knowledge pertinent to payoff tables. Payoff tables will be shared with you. Your job is to explain the content of the payoff tables. Similarly, decision trees will be shared with you. And in today's session, I'm going to take you through a question tied to decision trees, how to explain a decision tree. And your knowledge pertinent to expected values, standard deviation, and coefficient of variation will be tested. So these three elements are covered within mock exam 3 itself. I showed you a question tied to these elements a while back. So this is how your knowledge will be tested, tied to expected values, standard deviations, and coefficient of variation. All right, so these elements will be tested, and you have to have a good understanding of how to determine the value of perfect information. And you should have the capability to identify risks and manage them concerning the short run of your company. And also you should understand the limitations of each of the risk management tools identified, which I've mentioned in here. Okay, so that's tied to risk and uncertainty. And with regards to short-term decision making, your knowledge pertaining to make or buy options or make or buy decision making will be tested. So you should have the capability of evaluating whether we should manufacture something in-house or whether we should opt for outsourcing. And your knowledge pertaining to multi-product break-even chart will definitely be tested, given the fact that we are into manufacturing. Halfpenny is manufacturing multiple products. So your knowledge in this area will be tested. A graph will be shared with you, and your job is to explain the multi-product break-even graph. And your knowledge pertaining to linear programming will definitely be tested. So this is these two elements are the most toughest areas out there if you look at the P1 syllabus. But if you really get your grips about how to structure your answer, these are the easiest, because it's simply a matter of explaining a graph. So you should have the capability of explaining a linear programming graph. You will struggle a bit, but when you have access to our mock exams and the answer plans, then you will easily understand how to structure your answers, which how to approach these type of questions. And your knowledge pertinent to inventory management will be tested. So you should understand what an aggressive approach to inventory management is. And you should have a good understanding of economic order quantity and just-in-time purchasing. And your knowledge pertaining to ethics, business ethics, and CSR will be tested. If we go for automation, we might have to let some of our employees go. So in such an instance, you should understand how to manage these redundancies in the most ethical manner. And artificial intelligence or implementing AI within our manufacturing operations and the type of benefits on offer will be tested. And non-financial factors to be considered in decision making will be tested at your examination. All right, then lastly, your knowledge pertaining to KPIs will be tested. So you should understand the benefits of using a KPI dashboard. And on top of that, you should have the capability of recommending justified KPIs concerning various different angles. So we have covered all these elements within the mocks we have developed. So how to, test the performance of us trying to diversify our product range, pursuing an international expansion, checking the performance of our large and small retail sales teams, checking the performance of our product development, production, distribution and delivery, raw material storage, machine maintenance, facilities maintenance, canteen staff, and on top of that, keeping tabs about retailer performance, because we are selling our products through retailers, so it's best to keep tabs about their performance. And we should also keep tabs about the performance of our raw material and packaging material suppliers, distribution agents, and if we are to launch digital marketing, because as per your pre-scene, we have a separate director who looks into marketing and who is really interested in digital marketing. So in such an environment, definitely there will be a scenario in which we are trying to launch digital marketing. And when doing so, you should have the capability to keep tabs about the efficiency of these digital marketing initiatives. And if we launch an application web app, then web or a mobile app, you should have the capability to track performance of such an app, and your knowledge pertaining to non-financial KPIs can be tested as well. So as you can see, this examination is P1 heavy. So you have to be conversant with all these areas, how each syllabus area is tested. Don't worry. We have covered all these elements within the 6 mock exams which we have shared with you. So if you attempt the 6 mock exams and conduct your revision, you need not worry about covering all these elements, because you will gain a good understanding of how each of these areas can be tested. And when conducting revision, you will learn how to tackle each theoretical concept and how to work on your application skills. And once you're conversant with all these 72 subtasks, then at the exam, you need not worry about the outcome. All right, so that's your P1 syllabus. Having said that, let's move on to the discussion of tonight's mock exam. So I'm going to direct your attention towards OCS mock 3, section number 1, subtask A. Okay, so this is what we are going to look at. So section number 1, give me a second, please. This is the suggested answer. Yes, okay. So section number 1, the time allocation is 45 minutes. Currently, Halfpenny is developing plans to expand into its neighboring country of Zealand, which offers significant business potential. So this mock exam is developed considering a fact that we are going for an international expansion. The country is twice the size of Zealand and has a population which is 2.5 times larger and lacks any packaged bread manufacturers. So this is a significantly large market, and there is no player who is selling packaged bread. So this is a good market for us if we are successful within this new market. The following email was sent to you by the senior sales manager, and the subject goes as expanding to Zealand. At the recent board meeting, it was decided to sell our breads and rolls in Zealand through reputable retailers. To facilitate this, we intend to partner with a distribution services provider that will stock up our breads and rolls and manage distribution to the retailers in Zealand. This approach will ensure smooth warehouse and logistics operations as we embark on our expansion into this market. So we are trying to rely on a third party who is involved with distributing to retailers. So we will be, exporting our produce to this distributor, and this distributor in return will, transport the breads and rolls to various different retailers within Zealand. From our initial negotiations, we've narrowed our choice down to 2 entities, Main Inc. and AIM Limited. We will select one to oversee our warehouse operations in the country. So the warehouse operations with regards to handling distribution and warehouse operations, we have reached out to 2 entities, and out of these 2 entities, we are going to select just one. Interestingly, while both are proposing the same commission based on the type and the volume of inventory managed, their offers diverge when it comes to logistics services. So with regards to warehouse services, the commissions which both these entities are charging are quite the same. However, with regards to the provision of logistics or transportation services, the fee structures differ between these 2 players. Here's a brief on their delivery fee structures. So looking at Main Inc., they are presenting us with two options. Option number one is to charge a flat monthly delivery fee, regardless of the number of products delivered. So it's going to be a fixed fee. And option number two is to charge a fee proportional to the quantity of products delivered. So this is going to be a variable fee. So these are the two options presented by Main Inc. Then let's look at what AIM Limited is proposing to us. AIM Limited is proposing a delivery fee tied to the quantity of products delivered, so it's a variable fee. Additionally, they are offering to run a promotional campaign on our behalf for a fee of $C 1.5 million. So they are proposing a variable fee, and on top of that, they are going to charge us $1.5 million, thereby conducting a promotional campaign within this country. The value achieved by Halfpenny by letting the entity handle warehouse operations and logistics services could be either very good, good, or poor. So, irrespective of whether we select Main Inc. or AIM Limited, we might be exposed to a very good outcome, a good outcome, or a poor outcome. So there's some type of uncertainty when operating within a new market. So that is why we are considering three different outcomes, which are named as very good, good, and poor. My inclination is towards AIM Limited. Okay, so our senior sales manager says that she is inclined towards AIM Limited. Let's try to understand why this is the case. My inclination is towards AIM Limited, primarily due to their marketing campaign offer. So she's interested in AIM Limited because we can rely on AIM Limited by paying C dollars 1.5 million, so that we can rely on the marketing campaign AIM Limited will carry out on behalf of us, which promises to augment sales and generate substantial value for Halfpenny. Note that Sealand's currency is the C dollar. Also, I'd like you to draw your attention towards the decision tree shared by our finance director. Based on my assessments, please see reference material 1. She advises us to consult this tree before finalizing our choice. All right, so let's look at the decision tree. So the finance director has shared a decision tree with you. You can see some squares and circles and some branches and some numbers in here, some expected values and whatnot. So there's a lot of information. And in addition to this decision tree, this decision diagram, you have some notes as well. The outcomes are based on the finance director's estimates of additional cash flows generated by selling in Sealand, net of delivery fees. However, the additional marketing cost is not included within this decision tree. So with regards to AIM Limited, they are going to charge us 1 point. If we go ahead with AIM Limited's services, then we are supposed to spend $1.5 million for the marketing campaign, but there's no indication of the marketing campaign within this decision tree. And on top of that, the sales team estimates that the additional marketing campaign run by AIM Limited will increase sales volumes by 10% in lieu of each market reaction. So there are 3 market reactions: very good, good, and poor. So if we run a marketing campaign by relying on AIM Limited, then sales volumes will increase by 10%, irrespective of whether we achieve a very good, good, or a poor outcome. All right, so that's what the sales team is telling us. So let's look at the requirement. Your requirement is to explain the decision tree and explain how we should use it to select the most suitable entity. So before you develop the answer plan, your job is to simplify the requirement. So I've simplified the requirement as explain the decision tree, which entity is the most suitable. So first things first, this question comprises of 2 main parts. In the first part, you are supposed to explain the decision tree. And in the second part, you are supposed to, justify your position as to which company is the best or the most suitable for us. All right, so you have simplified the requirement, and your next step is to determine how many points you need to include for this type of a question. So the weightage provided in here is 37%. So 37% of 37.5 marks come up to 14 marks in total. So as I mentioned a while back, divide 14 by 3. Then you'd arrive at something like 4 or 5. Let's say 5. Okay. Then again, divide 14 by 2. Then you'd arrive at 7. So if you include 5 to 7 valid points in your answer, you will get full marks for this type of a question. All right. Now we know how many points you should include. Then let's look at how you should structure your answer. All right. So before I explain this decision tree or this answer rather, if you, I hope you gain a good understanding of the requirement and the information which was shared with you. I'm going to simply, share this information for about 1.5 minutes so that you can read through this information once more before I start my explanation. I'm going to pause the recording, take 1.5 minutes of your time and read through this entire scenario. All right, folks. So let's try to understand how to, address the requirement, which is to first things first, explain this decision tree. Okay, so I'm starting my answer by, including a main heading, which is in bold and underlined format, decision about the choice of entity. And I've started my answer by defining what a decision tree is all about. A decision tree is a diagrammatic representation of the decisions that we need to make. So we are supposed to select, three different options, two options offered by Main Inc. and one single option offered by AIM Limited. So by looking at a decision tree, we are looking at various different outcomes. And on top of that, in each option, there are three different, outcomes which you can see here, which are known as a very good, good, and poor outcome. So we are supposed to consider multiple angles. And when doing so, it makes our life easy when we have the capability to present information as a diagram. So that's what a decision tree is about. It will assist decision makers to select the best option. So at our disposal, there are two decisions, which is to opt for either options 1 or 2, as per what's presented by Main Inc. And then after selecting the best option out of the two options provided by Main Inc., then we have to compare between Main Inc. and AIM Limited. So if you look at this, we have to first compare between these two options. After we have compared between these two options and after we have selected the best option, let's assume that we selected option number 1. Then we have to compare option number 1 of Main Inc. with AIM Limited's offerings. Okay, so that's exactly what you can see in here. There is a separate branch which branches out from this square, which is termed as B, which leads up to square A. And tied to this square A, there are two different circles. And circle number 1 is tied to option number 1 of Main Inc. And the second circle is tied to the option number 2 offered by Main Inc. So we have to select between these two options. Once we have selected one, we have to compare our selection with what AIM Limited is offering and go for the best outcome. Okay, so that's what's highlighted here. And as per this decision tree, we are exposed to three combinations. The combinations are going ahead with option number 1 of Main Inc., or selecting option number 2 of Main Inc., or selecting AIM Limited. All right, so these are our three combinations. And then let's try to explain what these circles and squares are all about. There you can see some squares and circles. Your job is to next explain these circles and squares. So the circles indicate the three outcomes and their expected values. So you have to explain what these outcomes and expected values are. So that does not mean that you need to explain all these expected values. Instead, simply focus on explaining one single option. When you're done with it, the examiner knows for a fact that if you had accurately explained the expected values of one single option, then the examiner knows, or the marker knows for a fact that you are capable of explaining any amount of options concerning a decision tree. So I've selected option number 1 of Main Inc. As the example which I'm using for my evaluation. So if you look at option number 1, we are considering three different outcomes: very good, good, and poor. and tied to each outcome, there are some numbers which are shared with you. So we are looking at option number 1. The first number is $12 million. Then you can see $8.7 million and $5.4 million. So what these numbers in dollar terms indicate is the fact that these are the amount of values or the revenues we can generate by selecting main inks option number 1. So if we achieve a very good outcome, it will generate $12 million worth of value for us. By using a main inks services, if we are exposed to a good outcome, it will end up generating $8.7 million worth of value for us. And if we are exposed to a poor outcome by selecting main inks option number 1, then we are exposed to generating values worth of $5.4 million. So that's exactly what is depicted in here. If the outcome is very good, then we will generate value amounting to $12 million. If the outcome is good, then we will generate $8.7 million. Or if the outcome is poor, still we will end up generating $5.4 million. And you can see an expected value figure or an EV figure in here, which reads as 8.04 million. So the expected value is the weighted average of outcomes when weighed by their probabilities. So where are the probabilities? The probabilities are indicated inside these squares. So there's a 20% probability. 0.2 means 20%. So there's a 20% probability of us achieving a very good outcome if we utilize services offered by main Inc. There's a 40% probability or 40% chance of us being exposed to a good outcome if we utilize services offered by main Inc. under their option number 1. And there is a 40% chance of us being exposed to a poor outcome if we utilize the option number 1 of main Inc. So these are the probabilities. These are the values which we can generate focused on each outcome. So we then, when we have access to these values and the probabilities, we can compute a weighted average. You are not expected to compute this weighted average because the numbers are shared with you. As I mentioned earlier, you are not supposed to do any calculations. Instead, you are supposed to explain these figures. So the EV indicates the weighted average of outcomes when weighed by their probabilities. So the expected value of all three outcomes, when you average it out, the expected value can be read as 8.04 million. So in a general sense, if we go ahead with main Inc.'s option number 1, we will generate value amounting to $8.04 million. So this simplifies the decision-making process, because if we are not considering expected values, then we will have to compare between these three options against these three outcomes against the outcomes tied to option number 2 and the outcomes tied to AIM Limited. Rather than complicating affairs, we rely on expected values when it comes to finalizing our decision as per decision tree methodology. Okay, so that's our expected value. And then I'm going to explain what these squares mean. So these squares depict decision points. So there are two squares in here. So if you look at the first square, square A, this indicates 2 decision points. Out of these 2 options, we have to select one. After selecting one, then our next option is to select between main Inc. and AIM Limited. So this is our second decision point. After selecting, let's assume we selected option number 1 of main Inc. Then we have to compare between option number 1 of main Inc. against what AIM Limited is offering. So these squares indicate decision points. So the circles indicate outcomes and the squares indicate decision points. So first things first, I'm going to explain what point A is all about. So point A indicates what we need to select, whether we should select main Inc.'s option number 1 or option number 2. So A indicates whether we should select option number 1 of main Inc. or option number 2 presented by main Inc. And in order to decide, we have to look at the expected values of each option. So to decide, compare the expected values and choose the highest. So option number 1's expected value is 8.04 million. Option number 2's expected value is 8.1 million. Out of these two options, the highest expected value is tied to option number 2. So therefore, out of these two decision points, we should go for the second option because it generates us higher value compared to option number 1. So that's exactly what's highlighted here. Option number 1 generates an expected value of 8.04 million, and option 2 8.1 million, which is the best outcome for us. So we should opt for a situation where we opt for a logistics fee that changes with output if we decide to go ahead with main inks offerings. Then we have to decide on option number B. So out of these two options, we have decided that the second option is the best. Now we have to compare between option number 2 of main ink against AM Limited's one single option. Okay, so what to select, main inks option number 2 or AM Limited? Again, we have to compare the expected values. So we have already selected option number 2. So the expected value is $8.1 million. And against this figure, we have to compare the expected value of $10.779 million. So at the outset, you can see that AM Limited will generate additional value for us. So this is the best option. However, as per the notes, it is clearly mentioned that the additional marketing cost is not included in this decision tree. So this expected value, which comes up to 10.779 million, does not include the additional marketing cost, which comes up to $1.5 million. Okay, so we have to consider this amount before we finalize our decision. So that's exactly what you can see here. AM Limited's expected value is actually $9.28 million, not $10.779 million. Why am I saying this? Because I've deducted 1.5 million from 10.8 million or 10.779 million, which leaves us at $9.28 million. So we are supposed to compare between $8.1 million against $9.28 million. And out of these two options, the best outcome is offered by AM Limited. Therefore, we have to select AM Limited's services. So first things first, we compared between these two options and selected option number 2. And between main inks, option number 2 and AM Limited's, single option, when we have deducted the marketing cost, still AM Limited's offering will generate better value for us. So that should be our choice. Okay, so that's your answer. So it's quite easy. It's a matter of, simply explaining the two decisions, or 2 or 3 or 4, however the number of decisions there are. You have to explain them and then talk about the combinations, then explain the circles, and when explaining these circles, explaining just one circle will do, and then explain the decision points by thereby explaining all the squares. So if there are 3 different squares at your examination, you have to explain all 3. And when you are doing this evaluation, consider expected values and go for the highest value. All right, so that's how you should tackle this type of a question. So after going through this answer plan, you will gain an understanding of how to structure your answer. Once you are done with it, when conducting revision, redevelop the answer plan on your own. Keep this answer plan aside and redevelop the answer plan on your own. You are not supposed to time your practice. Instead, when conducting revision, you can take any amount of time. So your objective when conducting revision is to gain an understanding of whether you have really understood all the points which appears within TCS's answer plan, and whether you are capable of replicating an answer plan which is similar to TCS's. If you are capable to mention all these points on your own when it comes to redeveloping answer plans, then you will not struggle with a question tied to decision trees, because you know how to score full marks at your examination. And once you have developed this answer plan, your next step, as per our answering technique, is to expand the answer plan in paragraph form, and this is how your final answer should look like. So as per each point, I've developed a paragraph, and explained each point in depth. All right, so you can gain a good understanding of how to expand your answer plans by referring to the suggested answers we have shared concerning the 6 mocks as well. All right, so that's what I wanted to highlight. Having said that, we are moving to the Q&A session. So if you have any questions, you can drop us a message via the chat or simply switch on your mic and talk to me. All right, so I'm going to pause the recording. All right, folks, seems like there aren't any questions. So I'm happy to say that we achieved a 95% pass rate in the previous OCS examination. And Jonathan was our highest scorer. And this individual ended up scoring 109 marks simply by, starting preparations just 3 weeks before the examination. So similar to, what I shared with you, the 3-week study plan, which was shared with you at the very inception of tonight's webinar. I shared the study plan last session as well, and this individual, thought of conducting preparations on his own, but later figured out that with tutor support, he can easily pass this examination. So that's why he started preparations just 3 weeks before the examination and attempted all 6 mock exams and conducted revision. By doing so, this individual achieved 109 marks in the previous sitting. So your pass mark is just 80. You can score way above this if you stick to our study plan, thereby attempt 6 mock exams and conduct revision by redeveloping answer plans. So I hope you'd achieve a similar feat by sticking to the study plan. And I think a question had come through, so I'm going to pause the recording once more. All right, I hope I addressed that concern. Okay, so having said that, if you want to contact us, you can visit our website and click on the contact button. Drop us a message. Our admin staff will get in touch with you via email during office hours, or simply you can directly email us at info@study@tcs.com or WhatsApp us on this number. And I invite you to follow us on our social media handles, especially YouTube and TikTok, because the recorded versions of the weekly webinars and workshops will be uploaded to our YouTube handle. And via TikTok, you'd gain access to a good set of videos, which is a good pre-seen mind map. So from today until your examination, on a continuous basis, on a daily basis, keep watching these TikToks to keep yourself reminded of the most important points highlighted within your pre-seen. In addition to this, we have also shared this pre-seen mind map with you via the WhatsApp group. This can be downloaded via our student dashboard as well, which appears under the paid and free accounts. So go through this document on your own to keep yourself constantly reminded of the most important points which appear within your pre-seen document. And if you're yet to read our blog post concerning Halfpenny, click on the blog button and read this blog post. Having said that, it brings us to the end of the first workshop, which was focused on your P1 syllabus. I hope you gain a good understanding of which areas are tested, and I hope you gain a good understanding of how to explain a decision tree, which is considered to be a tough syllabus area. But now you know it is not tough. So that's why it's essential that you attempt the mock exams to get your bearings with how each syllabus area is tested. And at the same time, that's why it's essential for you to refer to the answer plans to gain an understanding of how to tackle each syllabus area in the most successful manner. And once you have understood these elements, focus your attention towards revision, which should be to redevelop answer plans. So I expect to see you guys next week at our second workshop, in which I'm going to take you through your F1 syllabus, and similar to what I did in tonight's session, I'm going to explain a question tied to one of the mock exams concerning your F1 syllabus. So thank you very much for joining. I expect to see you guys next week at the F1 workshop. Thank you and take care.